Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, or morning, or evening, wherever you are. Good day to you all. Right. So today, we want to talk about mental health. I'm not. I doubt this is the most fascinating topic for us as international students, but I really do want to talk about this because this is something that I'm passionate about. As an international student, when I came to the UK, I think if you have been in this situation, that's when you would actually understand the gravity of um mental health challenges, especially I think I would say maybe depression and some anxiety based on new environment. You're changing environment, you're coming to a new space, you're trying to navigate the whole process of being an international student, learning how to manage yourself, and also meeting all the expectations that are required of you. So, for those that may or may not know, I think not too long ago, there was a situation where someone unfortunately decided they couldn't do this anymore and they took their life, which is very sad. And so I thought, and my other colleagues thought, this will actually be a very nice topic to encourage ourselves, first of all, to share with our international colleagues, that especially international students, that this is something that requires a lot of attention and a lot of motivation, support, and everything that we can give, because you're not alone in this journey. I think that in the first place really helps, just knowing that this is not just your fight. You're not the only one trying to keep your head above water, push through all that you need to do, and also deliver what you have to deliver in terms of your graduate school program. So, Dr. Theo, thanks for joining us. Thanks everybody for joining us. I hope this is going to take off a bit. Hi, Summer. Thank you for joining. Um, I'm just going to send you guys requests. I know, Summer, thank you so much. I honestly appreciate this because I know the time that this is not the most convenient time. So I'm happy if you want to just say one or two things, if that's fine with you, and you just go on and have your nice, would I say morning or evening now? Or mid, yeah, morning, quite early in the morning. So if that's the case, yeah, that's fine. Obviously, one of the things that I want to do here is to maybe talk about the whole situation around mental health, especially international students, and then maybe one or two stories. I have my story on how I struggled. I think I tweeted it a while ago about how I actually struggled with headaches for so long, and I went to hospital, and I remember the doctor said, oh, I think you're under stress, you're under a lot of stress, and you need to take time off. And I told him, I was like, I can't do that, like I can't take time off. I literally looked at him and said, that is not something I can afford. Obviously, if it gets too much, I should have listened. But the fear of everything that I had to do, and the worry of, oh my goodness, how am I going to manage everything? Taking time off already seems like, without taking time off, seemed like I had a lot to do. Now thinking about taking time off is just beyond what I can imagine. How am I supposed to complete my program? And that's not really a good place for us to be. Now, also keeping in mind, as an international student, where we have visa situation in addition to everything else that is going on. So I see some tweets about I quit my PhD, or I quit my postgraduate program, and something like that. And it's really, I mean, obviously, if you can't, you don't have to force yourself to the point of, thinking about this is all there is to life and maybe taking life. But most international students, we don't really have that luxury when it comes to, oh, I think I've had enough. Sometimes, like, the decision, it takes a long time before we get to such a point where we're like, okay, I'm done. Because once you're done with that program, most time it's not just being done with that program, but also leaving the environment, having a lot of changes that may really impact on, your life. So sometimes we just push and push ourselves in terms of, I'm just going to keep going, because the other alternative is not something that I think I can afford. So it's almost like a double burden for us international students. You're struggling with, am I going to lose, you know, my program that I've started, that I'm hoping I'll complete, and also am I going to leave the environment, leave the country, move to another country, or go back to where I'm coming from, or just a whole lot of things. And so most of us, we just try and push it like the alternative is almost not an option. I'm just going to have to do this and get it done, however way or route I can do, I can go through it. So anyway, can I hope this is not going to be so much of me talking, but would it be okay if I just ask, I've requested few people to join me on stage, if you just want to one or two introductory words, and then I sort of like go over some of the items that I'm hoping we can cover today. Would that be okay, Dr. Theo?
Hello, that would be very, very fine by me. Um, so my name is Theo Akujo. I'm a senior lecturer at Bournemouth University. My background is in medical imaging. Specifically, my PhD looked into using neuroimaging applications to study first episode of psychosis. So really, 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 mental health is a very key thing personally, and then professionally as well. So happy to share my own experiences today, and then we have a chat. The recent thing that really happened, I think last year, was someone that I know personally. This is someone that I shared the opportunity, the scholarship opportunity with. He came to the UK. Sadly, in his final year, took his life, and it's just really, 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 it really hit me. In fact, I got angry. I'm like, okay, a lot of people are looking for this opportunity. You got it, and you just messed it up. But on reflection, I'm like, okay, I mean, there could be more to it. This is the person I was just testing to the night before. The next, 48 hours, I just heard, he killed himself. So yeah, I mean, I think we will not focus. I don't think, Folla, we are going to focus so much on the negatives. Rather, we would look at our own experiences and how we sort of like manage mitigating strategies that, we manage sort of like be successful on our programs, and then our coping strategies that help us to come out successfully. Just to say that I'm actually engaging in one of my coping strategies. So I'm cooking at the moment, which is something I do just to keep me sane. So we'll keep the conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Theo. Absolutely. This whole conversation would not or I would like, and I'm sure many of us too, we would not like it to just be about, some of the not so pleasant part of, mental health challenges and the outcomes that we don't want, but most likely but more so the ways that we have been able to manage ourselves, or that we have seen other people manage, and just to prepare, especially those that are not yet in the journey of being international student, just to prepare minds that you may come in and you may find everybody's sort of like interested in my program, scholarship or this or that, but not necessarily having some of these other situations in mind. So maybe it's just more about preparing their mind and seeing how we can give one or two advices on how they can navigate it once they come in, not necessarily the not so nice outcome that we have, many of us have either seen or heard about. Thank you, Dr. Theo. Summer, would you like to jump on the train?
Yeah, sorry, you guys should just pardon my voice. I haven't slept. I thought I slept like an hour ago. This is still like my
Oh,
4:10 a.m. So just in case if my voice is a little bit down. Yeah, so my name is Summer Okibi, and I'm a master's student at the University of Victoria Faculty of Law. My area of research is focused on indigenous law, Aboriginal rights, governance, and a little bit of international human rights. I love this topic a lot. In short, I just stumbled on one of my old videos. I make a lot of videos and I just never post them. So I stumbled on one and I was just saying, oh, how for the past 3 months I've been going through a lot, and Twitter people think I'm actually like the strongest girl ever, you know? So it's one of the things that we go through when you're in grad school or when you're abroad as an international student. There are a lot of things that begin to happen to you, and you're asking yourself, are you sure I can do this? Are you sure this is what I want? Except at some point you want to leave, the country to go back to Nigeria. As crazy as it may sound, you might be like, nothing will ever make me go back to Nigeria. But there are a lot of things that will happen abroad that for a split of second, you'll be like, I think I should just go back home. This place is not for me. Right? So mental health is, I'm sure most of us would be like, I beg, we know if you get mental health, we'll go rugged down. Not be Nigerians would be, or. But sorry, I'm talking about Nigeria a lot. I'm Nigerian, and I'm sure like at least 90% of us are Nigerians or Africans. So we go through a lot. And just briefly, so I can just allow others to just introduce themselves. I know someone who was in my cohort actually left Canada back to Nigeria because of mental health issues. So you would find out that a lot of things happen. The person could not do a lot of stuff in school. I think everything just weighed the person down. The person could not handle, what was going on in the environment, and the person had to go back home. So it's very important that we discuss issues on how we can cope with this, or how we can help each other. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Summer. I mean, thank you so very much. First of all, bless your heart. I was shocked when you said it was 4 a.m. and you still try and join us. You are absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Aaron? I think I see Aaron next, right after Summer. Would you like
Yes,
to?
I'm here.
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Folla, and hi, everyone. Hi, everyone who is listening. It's good to join this space, and thanks so much for organizing this, because, I mean, this is a very important topic for us who are still on the journey. So just an introduction, my name is Aaron. I am doing a PhD in the School of Public Health and Social Work in Queensland University of Technology, Australia. And my work is around HIV and disability. I assume this is just an introduction, right, Folla, so I don't begin to vibe. So I'll just leave it at the introduction, and then as the conversation goes, we'll have, things to share for our own benefit, for the benefit of others, and also learn from the experiences of others who have gone ahead of us on this call, especially for those of us who are still students. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Yes, absolutely. We just want to have an idea of who we are. And obviously, most of us on stage right now have gone through that journey. So everyone else within the audience know that these are people that have experienced, stuff, and they are still struggling. It's not, I'm not saying the struggle is, over, but you're sort of like on top of things and getting on with life as much as possible. Dr. Chukwu Wenke. Sorry, Doctor.
Yeah, you got it right.
Hey,
Yes.
I got. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again, Dr. Folla. We can call me Chooks. That's the short way to it. My name is Chukwu Wangu. I'm a lecturer at ESUT. ESUT is Enugu State University of Science and Technology. I'm a sociologist that specialized in demographic studies. I did something on cervical cancer for my PhD, but that's not what we're here. So let me just get to the issue. It's just introduction. My own concern about the whole conversation today will be to speaking from the people of Africa. I'm in Nigeria. I'm not international students, or I'm not in diaspora. So I also want to, because the topic says for international students, but I pray that to accommodate the experiences that African students that are doing it in their country or some other African country do their postgraduate studies. So what are they experiencing, and what their
health challenges, what is it like, and all that. So we also have to accommodate that. It's not been easy here. I did my PhD, like I said the last time I had a space. I did my PhD for 10 years. It was let me say it's hell, but I put through, I finished, yeah. So I finished alive. So my own concern would be if as we move forward on this conversation to think around support, because I discovered that one of the challenges I had during my time was that it seems there was no support because when I had challenges, even within my faculty, even with my supervisor and all that, I had nobody to run to. I just had to rely on some social capitals that are around me, encouraging me. My father once told me when I said I'm not continuing, what kind of nonsense is this? That's not my life. I'm only working with an NGO and making a living. So what is it all about? So I'm encouraging me, so you are going to be the first PhD in the village. We don't have any PhD person in the village. You have to continue this. In fact, my father is a traditional ruler, so he said, even I can give up this too, but I want you to finish the PhD. That's also encouraged me to move forward. But there's no like any institutional-based support where students can go and open up and get some kind of relief or guidance on how to overcome some administrative, man-made obstacles that you see on your way in trying to achieve your dream and finish your program. So let me not talk much. As we continue, we learn from our stories and find a way to also help local students as much as we want to help international students. Thank you very much, Folla, for creating this space. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chooks. Okay, now my teeth is not going to fall off each time I try to call your name. Thank you. Yes. And this is why I so appreciate your presence, because you actually are, our colleague, our senior colleague in on the other side. So we're not, yes, you try and help us, because right now the conversation international, but also we have our home, Nigerian. When I say home, I mean Nigerian, our home students that are actually even facing maybe even more. Obviously the contexts are different, but maybe even more in terms of the support that is not necessarily there, not like some of what you will have around this part of the world. So thank you so much for adding that dimension to our conversation this afternoon or evening or morning, wherever you are. Dr. Tosing, thank you for joining us. Would you like to?
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Folla. My name is Tosing Folla Luwoye. I think we're still doing introductions, so I'll just introduce myself. I'm a medical doctor, even though a lot of times I like to call myself a retired medical doctor or a medical doctor on sabbatical. And I've also just recently concluded my PhD in humanitarian public health, where I looked at conflicts and sexual violence against men, focusing on South Sudanese men living in resettlement communities in Uganda. Public health, mental health. Clearly, when this conversation came up in one of the spaces yesterday, I was like, man, we really have to talk about this. As a matter of fact, I like to think it's probably one of the most important parts of doing postgraduate studies, whether abroad or I'm happy Dr. Chooks is here, whether abroad or in Nigeria. It's clearly not restricted to those that stay abroad alone. I know that, like Summer said earlier, there's this tendency for people to say that, and I used to do that when I actually first got to Australia. So I am in Australia presently, not too far from where my guy, Dr. Aaron, is. But there's that tendency to think that I've been Niger, and we say that a lot. I used to say that myself, especially when I was doing my master's degree. I did my master's degrees here too. I used to be like, I've been Niger and all of that. But when I started my PhD, I realized that it was a totally different ball game entirely. And as a matter of fact, so I'll just make this introduction really brief. Yesterday evening, just about this time yesterday, A friend of mine sent me a message and said one of our cousins who is doing a PhD somewhere in Nigeria sent her a message that he wants to quit the PhD because of his mental health. And it was like, something like, how should I advise him not to quit? And my response is, don't advise him not to quit. Yeah, don't tell him to quit, but don't advise him not to quit. You really need to hear him out, know what he's saying, because don't just assume that mental health. No, how could that? Because she sent me a screenshot of their chat, and she was saying, you will cope and all of that. But it's not just about thinking, oh, I will cope. There is a lot, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation as far as I can stay, because some of us might need to run to bed soon. But as far as I can stay, I'm really looking forward to having a good conversation and learning from a lot of other people, because mental health issues actually goes beyond PhD too. Even your work, like even working, I'm sure Dr. Folla working in academia, still writing papers and all that, you still get to some points where you still think, pardon my Yoruba, basically means what am I doing? Yeah, so things like that. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and I'm happy to be here with very great minds, both in the speakers and listeners section. Thank you for hosting this.
Yay, thank you so much, Dr. Tosing. Absolutely. What can I say? Even as someone that is working, and I know all of us are working in different spaces, mental health and the struggle with it goes throughout life. It's not just at one point. It's just that research currently, and we are sort of like focusing on academia and students within academic realm, because one, that's our focus, that's our interest. Then two, there's actually been quite a few studies that have highlighted the fact that compared to general population, students are facing quite a bit more, if not a whole lot more. And when you say student, obviously all students, but when you now pick on it, you would see that graduate students have higher burden of mental health challenges as well. So that's why the conversation is around that. Now, thank you so much for the introduction. I don't think I introduced myself. I just assumed. So my name is Folla, and I am a lecturer in public health in London, in a school in London. And so part of public health, as Aaron would know, and everybody else, obviously, mental health is a very big part of public health. We teach mental health. We teach, the theoretical and some of the understandings around mental health, and maybe one or two strategies on supporting, students in terms of mental health. So thank you so very much, panelists and everyone that has joined us. Can we just briefly look into what are the causes of some of these or maybe what are the main common mental health challenges that we have sort of like seen around or been aware of? I think I will kickstart with for me personally, there's a lot around anxiety, being anxious, especially, coming from a different environment. Now I'm talking international student, coming from a different environment to a new space, and the stress of, oh my God, how am I going to cope? How am I going to, this is a new, I can tell you, when I first came to the UK, I thought I'm going to fail my courses because the way they taught is different. The language is, I understand English, I've always understood it, but still, when some of my lecturers are speaking, and I'm just like, what's he saying? I'm not even sure I can catch half of it. So I was really, really stressed, just based on the fact that I'm moving from a different environment to a new one, that is not necessarily the kind of style of learning that I'm used to, or that, have been trained with. So yeah, anxiety would be one that I would think is really quite common among people. Is there any other ones that you have experienced or noticed? Or yes, please, Aaron.
Yeah, I think for me, it's speaking from my experience will be the pressure of trying to catch up with what our peers are doing. And that is one of the reasons why I remain apologies to Dr. Folla and to Dr. Theo and Dr. Chukwu and Tosing on the call. That's why I remain not so enthusiastic about academia, particularly because of the kind of pressure that is there. And I know I've had these conversations on different platforms. When I started my PhD in 2019, part of the things I struggled with was the pressure of that idea of your mates are doing this, are doing that, and you haven't caught up. So in my first year, I had friends who, before their confirmation, for instance, had published a paper. And I remember I was so stressed at that time. A lot of pressure of saying, these guys have published, and I know just about the time one of my friend we're in the same committee together for a conference. He was finishing, and he had published like over 10 papers. And I kept asking myself, is this even possible? And this. There are a lot of things, of course, I did that, tried to get me out of that maybe we'll talk about later. But for me, that was one thing I find that was a very, very serious trigger in thinking, everybody has done this. I remember I struggled. I started towards the end of 2020 to start writing a paper, which was a qualitative systematic review. And that struggle continued. I was new in the game, trying to learn the ropes, trying to do the PhD. And trying to also keep an eye, this guy have published, this guy hasn't published, or this guy has published and I haven't. I started that paper in 2020 and I only succeeded in getting it published in this year, 2022. So it's been a real struggle in terms of how does one cope with that pressure. And I know we'll have discussions around how we try to navigate that. Another thing that is very critical that everybody will agree with me on the call is, supervisors. Terrible supervisors. I'm not going to be politically correct. We have very terrible supervisors who have caused so much pressure for students. And many people on the call who are speakers or listeners who will agree. I have very close friends who are either dropped out of PhD because of supervisors or are still struggling currently. I took that frustration at some point on LinkedIn because of one of my friend who was going through a lot at the time. With his supervisor. So these are the two things I'll kind of highlight, at this time. Supervisors, bad supervisory panels or terrible supervisors have been very instrumental in making students, drive students crazy during their graduate studies. And of course, trying to manage the pressure of how do I catch up with, this is what others are doing and I'm still here, and so I'll leave it at the courses and probably when we get into the discussion around maybe how we navigated that, how we're still even struggling to manage that, I might chip in on some, but these are the points I will highlight at this point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I agree. And I was laughing because I'm a supervisor and I'm just hoping that I'm not one of those ones that you have mentioned. Soma, I think your hand went up next. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Just to be sure, Dr. Folla, you're asking symptoms of mental health issues. Just so that I know what I'm saying, because my head is going back and forth in this people's meeting.
Yeah.
Just so that okay, all right, thanks. So I feel like one of the symptoms are like problems of sleeping when you find it hard to go to bed because you have a lot of stuff to do. For instance, for the past 3 weeks I have not been sleeping well. I have different things I'm doing at the same time. And so most times I sleep around 4 a.m. and then I have to wake up around 8 a.m. and go and teach in school, right? So like there are so many reasons why I could obviously not be sleeping well. When you have mood swings, that's also a sign of mental health. Like, sometimes your energy is high, sometimes your energy is low, and you just all of a sudden withdraw from friends and activities. That's a sign of, I feel like that's a sign of mental health. You mentioned anxiety. I would say when you're just afraid, when you start even comparing yourself or even start like Aaron said, about his publications and all of that. I have a very sweet supervisor. As a matter of fact, my supervisor, I keep saying it, my supervisor is one of the best things that happened to me in grad school. But I feel like I put myself under unnecessary pressure. I did that. How did I do that? I did that by, come on, Summer, you're just a master's student and you want to publish at least 3 articles before you're done. Well, that's good, but that was me putting myself under pressure. That was me trying so hard to have publication so that, when I'm applying for a PhD position, it will boost my application. Or if I was applying for external fundings, it will boost my application. And guess what? I've applied for all these things and I got all of them, and I don't even have a publication yet. So you will find out that we are the ones that put ourselves under unnecessary pressure. And when you do that, it starts affecting your mental health. Maybe when you look at somebody in maybe a master's program, probably from another country, who has more research experience than you do, you're looking at a person's profile and you're seeing, 10 publications, you're already feeling less of yourself. It messes with the brain. And then you now try to do things, beyond your own capacity. So I just feel like these are like the basic ones that once they start happening to you, just know that you're already damaging your mental health. So you need to pause, you need to calm down and kind of have some sort of self-reflection and self-care. Yeah, so I would stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Soma. Bless you. I think this is something that we all go through, right? You put so much pressure, and I think I tweeted maybe 2 days ago about the fact that you should be kind to yourself at some point. Be kind to yourself, and sometimes just be like, I'm just gonna let this go. And I'm still learning because I'm still on that journey as well. But we are, as individuals, we're more critical of ourselves, we're more critical of our situation, and it's like, I've not done enough, I've not done enough. And sometimes maybe you've actually done way beyond enough. So thank you so much for that addition. Dr. Theo, I think your hand went up next.
Hello. Um, yeah. So basically, we are on the causes of anxiety, and I think really speakers have actually touched on some of the things I wanted to say, but I mean, I would just put it in a broad category of environment. So the environment where you are carrying out your PhD. So, I mean, being an international person in an environment, I mean, abroad, or even if you are doing it back home, of course, you've not done a PhD before. Of course, that is why you are going to do it. Well, not not in all circumstances, because I know people who have double PhDs and all that. But yeah, I don't know how they did it. But the assumption is that if you are doing something, it is the first time you are doing it, at least in the PhD. Most people go into it without not having PhD. So of course, getting into that environment in itself is new for you. If you are doing it abroad, it is worse, because then it means that you are in a different country. You are trying to adjust most of the time, get to know. I remember when I came into the UK, I could sit in the lecture hall. I don't really understand the environment, because the lecturers would be saying something funny, for example, something going on in the political arena, or that everyone is aware of, and people will be laughing, and I just sometimes just laugh along, but I don't understand what they are saying, And when people ask you to sort of like contribute, it becomes a bit frustrating, and so on. So the environment can, being new into that environment in itself can cause some level of anxiety. That being said, the environment again could be the student supervisor relationship. You can be lucky, have a very good supervisor. You may not be so lucky, the supervisor may be terrible, and the supervisory style and your own understanding of what supervision is may probably not really be the kind of approach that you are used to. And so coming to terms with all that in itself can cause some level of anxiety. The support network. So from elsewhere, I know they have, committees that you can just go and quote and unquote, forgive my language, bitch about your supervisor and all that. Other places don't really have that. And so I'm talking here about the inadequate support system that, could also contribute to anxiety, because you feel like, oh, I'm in it alone. I don't have anywhere to go to. If my supervisor is quote and unquote literally killing me, I don't have anywhere to turn to. That could really, really contribute to anxiety. The other thing is being a PhD student in a lab or in a department. You are likely, or you may have that feeling that you are sort of like the most junior person in the department. So you feel like, oh, I would have to do everything that is thrown at me. I don't have to say no to anything. That in itself could cause anxiety. And so here, learning in itself or developing the ability to nicely say no would go a long way to help. And I think it's a skill that PhD students or people, even within the academic space, need to really learn. And you don't have to feel sorry or feel bad about that. Just say no, because there is a limit of things that you can do. There is 24 hours in a day. There is 7 days in a week, and there is a limit to what you can do and what you cannot do. So know that you can say no to things, and that is just fine. So I think the feeling that you think that you cannot say no to certain things, the amount of workload that is coming, you cannot say no, and you find yourself in that position in itself would really, really cause anxiety and challenge people's mental health. So I think I would just end here, and then looking forward to when we get to the strategies and the solutions that we can use to mitigate this or to get past challenging mental health situations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Theo. Very lovely take on that. Dr. Tosing.
All right. Sorry, good evening. Oh, sorry, good morning, good afternoon again. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can, Dr. Tosing.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess what we're answering now is what are the causes and maybe symptoms of mental health issues in postgrad or grad students and stuff. I would say two things. Obviously, the speakers that have spoken earlier have said very, very important points, talking about environment, talking about supervisors and all. With respect to my own experience, I'll just mention two main things. The first thing is the work that you're doing itself can contribute to mental stress or mental health issues. And when I say the work, I mean the kind of work you're doing and then the progress or otherwise that you're making in the work. What do I mean by the kind of work? Like in my study, and I talked a little bit about my study earlier, I conducted interviews, with men that were sexually violated. Sincerely, when I was going to Uganda to collect my data, I thought, oh, this is something I'll be able to cope with easily. This is something I'll be able to handle. I'm just going to listen to their story and record the stories. But the truth is that when I started listening to these stories, it became like, just imagine, like whatever you want to imagine about sexual violence right now. Just imagine people telling you stories about their experiences. Grown men, fathers, like some were even, military men in their countries and all of that, telling all of these stories. They got at a point so distressing for me. Like, there were times I would just lay in my hotel room in Uganda, and I just lay and look at the ceiling, just stare at the ceiling, and I'm just like, wow, did all this all happen? It got to me. So the nature of the work you're doing. And then I also talked about the whether or not you're able to make progress. Of course, we know that whether you're doing PhD or you're doing a master's, It's not just about the lecturer tells you something and then you go and write down the result somewhere. A lot of times it requires critical thinking, and with your thinking process, you don't always have a breakthrough the moment you start. So there are times where you have to think. When I was starting, one of the things I was told was that Tosing, this PhD will consume you. And trust me, and I think, I mean, obviously, a lot of people that have done PhDs here will know. It basically consumes you. Every moment, like almost every moment of your life, you're thinking about. I was thinking about sexual violence, this sexual violence, that. Like, in fact, there are times I'll be in the car, like, I'm going somewhere, I have a friend in the car, and I'm telling my friend, can you help me type this thing and text it to me? Like, text it on WhatsApp. Like, that's my thought. Like, I'm thinking while I'm driving and I'm telling someone to. So it can basically consume you. And if you're finding it hard to get breakthroughs, or like most of the work that I do now, because I also work as a research fellow currently, require a lot of, statistical analysis, and you're trying to make sense of numbers and all of those things. If you're finding it difficult to, or if you're not making immediate progress, they also have a tendency to stress you and put you in a lot of mental health discomfort. And then the final thing I would just say in terms of what is causing it, there's so many things actually. But the other thing to consider is other life factors, like for instance, the fact that you're in grad school, the fact that you're doing a PhD, does not mean your bills stop running. It doesn't mean you stop eating. It doesn't mean you stop having to take care of bills. And for those that are fortunate, I was fortunate to get a scholarship, a full scholarship, and they were paying me. But what were they paying? I think they were paying about $1,000 something every fortnight, which was basically, I'll just say barely enough to take care of myself. And so there was that me worrying about so many things, about how I could have been making more money. I told myself, look, I'm a medical doctor. I could have, there was a time I literally said, I should have just stayed with my medicine and be making, plenty money. When I talk to friends telling me about what they are making in the UK, what they are making even here in Australia, when you think about all of those life, whatever, that you also have to satisfy, they can definitely put you under a lot of mental stress too. So I'll just leave with those points for now, and obviously we'll still be able to contribute to other things later. But those are the things that I would say directly affected me as a person. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tosin. Very important there. I think as a qualitative researcher, there's this aspect, for example, where you would have to do risk assessment. I remember when I was doing risk assessment for one of my research, and on the risk assessment, it says something about, how I'm going to protect myself as the researcher. And I was thinking, no, I'm just going to collect data. Like what protection do I need? But obviously, as I went on, I realized, yes, as a qualitative researcher, if you're not careful, you would actually get sucked into your participant story, and that would not just affect you while you're talking to them, but even after you have gone on to conclude the research, and even maybe beyond, that time, lifelong type of influence that may have on you. So I really empathize and sympathize with your situation while you were conducting your research. So for me, I went on and I checked some things, based on experience and based on other people's take on things. I just would like to quickly run through them. I'm not going to talk in depth about them, but just run through them as things that we may also sort of like keep in mind as we have our conversation. So looking at international students, element of racism, sorry to say this, but the R word, I think we all have one way, directly, indirectly, experienced it. It's just there. So that would be something. Deadline for assessment or for exams would probably be another cause. Imposter syndrome. So for example, many of us that got scholarship or are still on scholarship, and you'll be thinking, wait, why did they give me this scholarship? Am I that good? Or, oh God, oh my goodness, I don't think I'm worthy of this. I don't think, all of that sort of thoughts running through your head. Finance, Dr. Tosin pointed at it. I believe while you're doing your grad school program, life does not end with it. You're still having everyday life. Especially international students, you get called from home. I'm sorry, but we all receive these calls, whether or not. Do you know this is just some people still think I'm in school. Thankfully, I'm working in school, so I just be like, how are you? How is school? Yeah, school is fine, because the request is endless, especially when they sound you are out of school, you're working. Oh my goodness, and it doubles. I think I tweeted a while. I was like, ERC will probably give birth to twins, and you have to pay hospital bills and the rest of that. So as an international student, even while you're studying, some people just be like, you're abroad, you should be able to cough out some money, which is not there. So that also adds to it. The learning new environment, I've talked about that, where you're learning in a new space, that also adds to some of the things that may have impact on one's mental health, well-being. Stigma, maybe demand from home sort of links to with funding and the rest of that. I might have missed a few other things, but I think in general, these are some of the things that may add to those challenges that international students and even home students go through it when it comes to mental health. Dr. Chooks is just dropped off. He was going to say something. Grace, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Folla. Thank you so much for this session, and thanks to everyone who has spoken so far. I just wanted to add like three things that don't usually come across as factors that could have an impact on your mental health and well-being. One is the weather. It's unconventional, but there are studies that have shown that mental health can be impacted by the weather conditions, especially as international students. We've not faced some extreme weather situations, and then when you come here, the abrupt change, winter is naturally gloomy, and the lack of sunlight is a factor. I experienced this personally, and I noticed that when the sun is out and you're out, you feel that excitement. Your mental health is better off for it. There's the nutrition aspect where lack of certain vitamins have been shown to contribute. So as an international student, if you don't have access to maybe foods that you're used to, you have to go through a nutrition transition, and you're lacking in certain vitamins like vitamin D. Most people from Africa, we are exposed to sunlight constantly. We have maybe better vitamin D status while we're in our home country, and vitamin D has been linked to mental issues like depression and all that. And sometimes when you even go to see a GP for mental health issues, they would first, assess your vitamin D status, and if it's low, they would put you on that first to see if that improves your mental health before looking at other things. And that is also another factor that we don't usually consider. And the third is situations in your home country. As good as it sounds, like having escaped maybe the issues in your home country by, let's say, jackpine as it terms, I realized that for me, I think I got more impacted by the situations in my home country while I left, after I left, do you get? And little issues have a very big effect on you. Like everything seems so big. When you hear that someone is sick in your family, you imagine the worst, so all these things can also affect you, being separated from your loved ones, being alone here, the loneliness and all of that. These are also issues that tend to affect the mental health and well-being of international students, based on my experiences and the experiences of others as well. Just added that to the general list that everyone has already mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. Absolutely. I mean, these things that you have listed, they are really core and very important. I remember the first time I came to the UK. I've never traveled out of Nigeria before, so it was my first time, and I got here. It was winter period, and I remember 4 p.m. or even 3 p.m. and it's like late night darkness, that thing really disturbed me. I couldn't comprehend how come it's nighttime and it's literally just afternoon in my country that I'm used to is afternoon period. So yeah, those things definitely they are quite key and important in how they impact on our mental health as an individual. Fashola, am I correct? Yes, Fashola.
Yes, you're correct actually. So first of all, thank you, Dr. Folla, for this platform. So I think I'm a bit more relieved, and I would say I've gotten my healing. Hearing from people of like minds, it shows that I'm not only passing through this journey all alone. You know, People already resonated my thoughts, my experiences. I had Summer, Aaron, and then Dr. Tosing also, resonated what it is that I'm personally passing through. For me, I think I'm doing my PhD in Spain. First of all, that language barrier is actually really huge, and definitely it will take a toll on you, especially if you're coming from, an English-speaking country like, as we Nigerians, first of all, you need to just subject yourself to learning the language. So you're dealing with supervisors most of the time that barely really understand English. So that alone is really, really difficult. It became, an equivalent task on its own. So you need to learn the language, while you study for your PhD, while you do research and all that, you still have to take language classes because most of the time you need to converse with these supervisors in English and Spanish. So we call it Spanglish, just model everything up together for them to really understand what you're trying to say. And when it comes to language, there is a difference between the conversational aspect of it, and then there is a scientific communication that is different from the way you communicate normally. So you doing that in another language, it's quite difficult. So that on its own really take it on me, and I just try to find my way around it. It's a very big challenge. Whenever I tell or discuss with my other contemporaries doing their PhD, maybe in Canada, in the UK, and all that, they were like, "Oh wow, how are you guys really coping?" Man, they thought they were having it bad there, but hearing experiences from people like us where you need to even deal with the language barrier and try to learn that language just to really be in tune with your supervisors and with the research environment and all. So it's quite challenging, but I'm really be relieved hearing from other people. It shows that I'm not in this all alone. So personally, from another thing that actually took a toll on me is the area of publication. I found that really, really, the academia is beautiful and all, but when it comes to publication, it's quite challenging. There's a way it sinks into your subconscious and you just be like, oh my God, I'm not publishing. Oh, I'm not existing. I need to do something. And Aaron mentioned, when you have contemporaries, your peers that are, just, getting acceptance, getting publication so easily, and you'll be like, man, I've been struggling over this one paper and I've been getting rejections, corrections all the time. What's wrong with me? Do I really have what it takes to be in the academia and all? You begin to ask a lot of questions, you question yourself. So if you're not careful, you'll be having this imposter syndrome and all that. So that for me, it's quite challenging in the academia, publication. You write your paper, you already believe in your research, and you're like, okay, I think I've done my best. I've really strained myself. I think if this gets to the journal, it should get approval. They just reject and start telling you that no, you need to do this again. Not doing enough. Especially if your PhD is PhD by publication. Oh my God, your mind will be off. I'll take for PhD by publication and I'm not publishing, and also, it could be so daunting. But I'm really so happy being in this space. I'm very relieved. When you share experiences with people of like minds and you're in that space that okay, I'm not just the only one passing through this. Everybody is in this together. People might not be talking about it, but we are all, passing through the same thing. You're not just the only one in in that space. So, Dr. Folla, once again, I really appreciate you for bringing this up. I look forward to more of this. where we all come together, share our experiences, where we just talk about challenges we face in the course of research and in the course of research and the quest to contribute to the body of knowledge. So it's not we shouldn't only talk about research, techniques, methodology. We should always come together and talk about the real challenges. What are we facing? What are the social, psychological, economic effect of what we do? So I really appreciate this space. Thank you, everyone that has spoken.
Thank you so much. Very, very, very valuable contribution there. And yes, this is the thing. When I started this conversation, I said most time we have, and it's good, we should always talk about that. Many of us share scholarship opportunities or even strategies of getting some of these scholarships, and that is very valuable and they are very useful. But in addition to that, we should also let, especially those that are just coming in, that probably are not aware, because let them know the reality of being in a different or environment, or even being in grad school in general, even if it's back in home country for some of our colleagues. Having that understanding of there are other social aspects that you need to consider as you go on your journey, and how hopefully you can better manage, because once you're informed about something, you're halfway through getting the right approach to managing that situation. It's better than just getting hit by that thing without necessarily being aware or being prepared prior. Dr. Chooks, I notice you have been in and out. Maybe your network is having some issue.
Yes, exactly. I've been having problem of network. The thing keep knocking me out. I don't know if it's this Android phone thing, but I'm here now. Like I always do, I want to talk from our local perspective. I think the speakers have spoken, that have said much of what I wanted to say, but just to emphasize the peculiarities of the environment where I had on my degrees. Yes, there are too many things that causes this around here. Where to start, but briefly, you can just imagine.
We can't hear you, Dr. Chooks. Oh, I can't. Oh, would have been nice, because I really wanted to add the element of Nigerian context to the conversation, but Dr. Chooks' network is really not helping. Agbaki, I noticed you had your hand up and then you left it down. Do you want to?
Yeah, I would like to impute one or two things. Thank you very much, Doctor. Mr. Fashola, by the way, you
can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me now?
Dr. Chooks, okay, Agbakin, would you just mind a minute? Yeah, thank you.
No,
yeah, sorry about that. I don't understand what's going on. The tweet keep knocking me off and asking me to come back again. I don't understand if it's a network problem or issue with my phone. So what I'm trying to say is, back home here, can you imagine if I had this kind of platform even before going to my PhD program, to understand the expectations and all the obstacles I might face and how to go about it, the kind of support it would have given to me passing through that process, and my mental health issues would have also been managed well than I had it when I did the program. But in Nigeria, sorry, I'm mentioning a country, we don't have this kind of thing. If you want to come and do a program, you just buy a form, and we don't normally talk about scholarship here in Nigeria. You have to pay your dues up to the time you finish, and you start your program. It looks like you are on your own. When I say I did my PhD for 10 years, some people did for 12 years, 15 years, and people are just left in a box where you are confused. And if you don't have a supervisor that is very supportive, I mean, you can imagine the kind of mental stress the person will pass through. When I entered my PhD, I also made it like it's like I'm going to bring down God from heaven. The way he emphasized it, that this is a PhD, this is PhD you are doing now. This is not like masters. that fear, I had that fear, the fear of unknown. Will I have the ability to finish this program? When I was leaving his office, the first contact I had with him, he said, I went to Ibadan, I slept in the hotel. I did this, I did that, and did that. Are you sure you can do it? You know that I had this fear. When I left his office, I was like, will I be able to finish this program? And the way the man looked at me, he felt that maybe I'm not worthy of this program and all that and all that. You are coming from here, I've seen this, I've seen that. Do you have this and that? And I had that fear. You know, it was a very mental stretch for me, having that feeling of worthlessness that am I sure I can do this program? This is not like masters and all that, that I'm going to do that and all that. So it was like the mental stress that I had to pass through. And in Nigeria, you are just left on your own. Nobody asks you if you don't come to class. You keep pursuing your lecturers because I was doing my program in Anambra State, but sometimes I have to travel to Soka because they don't have enough lecturers to do some of their postgraduate studies. You have to go and pursue another lecturer in another school that is doing adjunct lectureship in another school to be able to do your coursework and other seminars that you need to do in a different school altogether. You know, it was very stressful for some students. Some people have to drop out and all that. And because of some other administrative issues, sometimes school go on strike, nobody cares about what you are passing through. You come, if you are virtually on your own, you keep pursuing your supervisor, doing whatever he asks you to do so that he don't get angry with you. I remember going to far away in Abakaliki to do a study for my supervisor. That was a learning process for me. But when I came back in that study, I discovered that the same study I was doing something on female genital mutilation on the role of men. I slept in Abakaliki for 3 days trying to do focus group discussion. And when I came back, I discovered that my supervisor has handed that thing to other students to do as his PhD topic. And I was so stressed. I said, why will you do that? But you know, you cannot confront your supervisor and challenge him for whatever thing he has done. If you do that, you are shooting yourself on the leg and you may never just come out of that program.
Dr. Chooks have probably run into network issue again. And I think what he was saying was quite insightful in terms of I can't imagine. I don't know. Can I do a PhD? Can I even do any postgraduate program in Nigeria? The thought of it just scares me. The experience, it seems like, whoa. Those that are doing it, my hat's off to you guys. Dr. Chooks, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. And let me make it brief. I think the network is so terrible here. So what I'm saying is that our own for postgraduate students in Africa, in Nigeria, we don't have any kind of support. If you have a challenge, where do you channel it to? It was initially that recently that some schools start trying to make it compulsory that you must leave at the appropriate timeline that your program specifies. But before now, it's like my university, we're trying to make it, if it's 4 years, if it's 3 years, if it's 5 years, we maintain that period of time for your study. But you see some students, registering for a program, and nobody cares about what's going on with them. They just leave you at your own. If you are not in good terms with your supervisor, if you don't find your way around, so many other things, you may never graduate and nobody cares. You know, so that puts a lot of pressure on postgraduate students, and a lot of things go on. A lot of people try to bribe themselves, politicians come from all corners to bribe their way and get the program and all that. You'll be there 5 years, you've not actually done your proposal, and you are seeing I think I'm not off again.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
You see a politician walked into your department, have a form, follow the program, and in the next 4 years he is done. But you that is there, have been there for 5 years, you've not finished. You know, all these things begin to bother postgraduate students, especially at the PhD level. They make it as if you get your PhD, you are equal to God. That kind of mentality, and you are putting all your life, all your strength to make sure you finish. Before I finish, my family members are only calling me dog. I said, I'm not finished. My father said, you must finish this program. You know, So it was too stressful and all that. Thank God I finished alive. So that's there's a peculiarity about local students. No, internationally, you may have where you can lay your complaint, you can have where you can find support and all that. But I don't think some of those things exist here. So you are on your own, you work out your salvation with fear and trembling. So that's part of the things that we pass through. Sometimes you enter into depression, from anxiety to depression. I didn't know I have the capability to pull through because my father will keep telling me, I don't think you are doing it well. How do I do it well? You don't guide me and all that and all that. So that's part of it. But I hope this conversation is lightening this up. And at the end of the day, I encourage graduate students. One of the things that I would like to have as an output of this conversation is to see if we can have networking in terms of support. I would be very happy to create in my faculty a support for graduate students so that any issues that you are passing through in terms of the longevity of your program or you're not finding resources and all that, or other mental issues that you're passing through, there is kind of a support for you to go through the process. That's one of the things I will be very desirous to see at the end of the day. But let's continue. Thank you so much for the time. Sorry for my network.
Thank you, Dr. Chooks. I think your network has finally allowed us to hear what you have to say, which has been valuable. Honestly, I think in Nigeria, obviously, I'm not very conversant with the working environment as a lecturer, but I think there's really not that body, that governing body, that sort of like oversees affairs of supervisor. I think supervisors have, and they should to an extent, but I think maybe they have just a little too much power and say so on the outcome of a student, and that's not necessarily the right way to go. You should have a body. I mean, maybe there are, but I don't think they are as effective because I've heard so many people's stories where someone is just like, is my supervisor is in some type of beef with another supervisor, and so that's affecting my PhD. And I'm thinking like, how did, like, from where to where, how, what's the connection? Your PhD does not have anything, but somehow all these political things that go on under the carpet seem to just affect the student, which is not fair. Or where you even have a student maybe not necessarily being in good terms with the supervisor, doesn't mean they are not doing their PhD or their whatever master's program as they should. But just because you are not in that very nice cordial time where you can go and do, I mean, for me right now, there's no way I can tell my PhD student to go and do a project for me if it doesn't really directly impact on their, I'm not allowed to do that. My project is my project. If they want to volunteer or if they want to take part in it, that's their choice. But it's not like I don't have that power to say, this is a project, go and do it. But it seems in Nigeria there's the context is a bit different. I was Dr. Theo, if I just go to Agbakin very briefly because he was saying something and then we come to you. Thank you. Agbakin, are you still with us?
Yeah, I am.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Folla. Even though I wanted to come from a different perspective before, but with Dr. Shuk's insights, I would like to share briefly my positive remark about the grad school in Nigeria. I am sorry for your experience, Dr. Shuk's. I did grad school in Nigeria, Federal University of Technology, Akure to be very precise. And coincidentally enough, I did my MSc for probably 14 months or 15 months. I'm done with my MSc in Nigeria. And well, it will have been for that 14 months, but there is a very crazy rule in the school that no matter how fast you are with your program, both my coursework and my project, the write-ups, the publication, I'm done with everything in like 14 or 15 months. But there is this crazy rule that says if you've not spent up to 18 months in your program, no matter what, you can't defend for your external. So that was actually what clocked me back. By the time I got to my 18 months, that COVID corona strike entered, and that's how I ended up spending like maybe 22 or 23 months. But well, I'm done with the whole thing at probably 14, 15 months, and I've forgotten about it. There's this thing I think as a hack for doing grad school in Nigeria. If you want to be very fast with it and even though it is not really possible for other people due to some circumstances. If you do your grad school where you had your undergraduate degree, I think I am of the opinion that it is always a bit easier, or let me say very easy, as compared to probably finishing in FUTA for your first degree, then going to University of Ibadan for your MSc. There is this very crazy thing. The lecturers in Ibadan might be thinking that, what are they teaching you in what are they teaching you in Akure? They will all have this bias that whatever you are bringing from wherever you are coming from is inferior to what they are teaching in the University of Ibadan. And that is very true. But yeah, just like I say, if you want to have it easy, when I did my MSc in Nigeria, I literally have the opportunity to choose my supervisor for myself, which is so easy for me. I choose my supervisor myself. I was in the school for 5 years, so I know who is who. I know who is a very fine and decent man that if I stay with him, I will be able to have so much freedom to do what I want to do, to be very fast, and a very serious lecturer to be so candid. So if you do your undergraduate, if you do your MSc or probably your PhD where you do your undergraduate, there is no matter how you wouldn't know the right person for you. Although I understand this may not be possible for every other person because you may have to change location at a particular period of time. And same thing with PhD. If I am still to be in Nigeria today and I still want to do my PhD in the same Nigeria, I will still choose the same supervisor I use for my MSc. And to be very candid, I am 100% sure that I'm going to finish my PhD in like 2 years. Even though the university rule is like probably you have to stay at least 3 years before you do your final defense. Recently, I saw someone in FUTA, the same food science and technology, who did his PhD for 2.5 years, and they allow you to even defend, although his case is a very little difference because he saw another PhD opportunity in Canada and he told the department that I've sought this opportunity and I don't want to let it go. And because he's done with his coursework, he's done with almost everything, they allow him to defend. And that's how this guy finished off with his PhD in 2.5 years. And I wouldn't know if it is my department alone, but I know it is peculiar to many other departments like that in FUTA. Apart from the fact that FUTA has a very fast track of finishing MSc and PhD, I still think that other people who are coming from other school also, they're having similar challenge. Why some of us who have been in FUTA for a while are finishing off in 18 months, in 20 months, in 20-something months. Others are still finding it difficult. So that means the same thing is still peculiar to them. The same FUTA lecturers that I am thinking are nice are doing the same thing to probably other students from other universities. Because I know of a student from University of Ilorin who is very, very serious, very, very serious. She's studious. She started her project almost immediately before all of us. And yet, the FUTA lecturers are still thinking maybe she's not that good enough or I wouldn't know. So I think the key for cracking graduate school in Nigeria, if you can afford it and you think you are seeing the same geographical location, please try as much as possible, except if you don't like that your school. Try as much as possible to do that your graduate school in the same school you finish, or if you want to finish everything off at a very fast pace. My opinion might be wrong, but that is my little suggestion on that. And secondly, on the topic we have, mental health issues, especially in overseas. Yeah, I've done grad school in 2 continents, in Nigeria and now I'm in Europe, and there's a very big contrast between the two. A very, very big contrast between the two. Unlike Nigeria, whereby if you're having some difficulties with some of your coursework, I have like up to 5 or 6 students who are so much ready to come and put me through. Here, you are almost on your own for everything. Well, maybe I am not that lucky with my colleagues, or I'm not that lucky. Maybe some people might have different experience. If you are even asking your colleagues to put you through anything here, majority of them will tell you they don't know it also, they don't know it. And before you know it, they will submit excellent report on the deadline day. So I have done almost everything I've done for myself, almost on my own, through YouTube, through Google searching, something that would have taken me like maybe 30 minutes to do. If I saw somebody that just like, okay, do it like this, do it like this, it can take days to do. So I'm in that condition for the very first time in my life where there is no support system. I have to do virtually everything for myself. And well, one of the things that make it probably a little bit difficult is I am coming from a different background. I've spent 10 years, over 10 years studying food science technology. I did national diploma in it. I did bachelor's degree. I did master's. And all of a sudden, I find myself in analytical chemistry, a very different field entirely, very different field. So, well, let me quickly put this. If you are not so mentally prepared for it, I think changing your background for grad school, especially abroad, it is not as easy as thought. It's not as easy as people used to say. Some people, except when maybe if you have been doing some MOC on it and you develop so much interest in that particular background, maybe you can find it so easy. But if not, it may be a little bit challenging. So as I was saying, my program here, in fact, there has never been a period where I see any student who is ready to put you through anything. So no matter how difficult the task is, you have to use YouTube. And for somebody who is coming from a Nigerian perspective where everybody is ready to help you at every particular moment, it is not so here. At least for the program where I am, it is not so. So you have to do everything by yourself. You are transitioning from being an A student, like you struggling to check your results from Nigeria, and you are like, if it's not A, it is going to be B, to your results coming out here and you are feeling palpitated to even check it. Will this thing come out well? It is a very different ball game, a very, very different ball game, and it is very crazy, very, very crazy. Almost every time, like I've checked my result like 8 times over here because I am doing like 34 courses in one session. A very crazy thing again. So every single time I'm having to check my result again, I'm like, wow, what is going to come out of this? And coming from someone who has never experienced such before all his life from kindergarten to this stage, it is a very, very, very different ball game. And you feel like, do I even hand this scholarship with merit? Am I what I think I used to be? Am I what people used to think that I am? Like later I got to know it is imposter syndrome and I got to read much about it, blah blah blah, and I think I am healing a little bit, even though I am still in the process of that healing stage. But I must confess it is not easy. Sometimes I don't think I have ever slept before and thinking about an assignment all my life in Nigeria. You are sleeping here and you couldn't even sleep. Your normal sleep of probably 4, 5, 6 hours. You are sleeping and you are still dreaming of assignments in your sleep. It is very crazy. I never envisaged it before. I saw it as one of the crazy things. I will say it is mental health problem because when I first got here, I think the first 2 or 3 months, I got depressed. It was almost the first time in my life that I will be depressed too, and I actually don't know what to do about it. I couldn't put my mind off book. So every time I'm working, my mind is on this next assessment to submit, this thing to do, and the likes. And I'm in Barcelona where you speak a very different language, like Fashola said. I don't know why I'm yet to meet Fashola, by the way. You are in Tarragona, I'm in Barcelona. I think we should meet one of these days. That's by the way. So as I was saying, you are in an environment where you can't even with anybody. You are your own. I can be at home for like a week without having to talk to anybody, especially when I have courses online. So it is boring, it is dark, it is depressing, it is a very crazy challenge and very crazy situation. But what I notice is, well, as time goes on, you will start getting used to it. You will start getting used to it. But no, that does not mean that the little fear does not come. That does not mean that when assessment is nearing completion time, you still do not think about it. You still do not dream about it. And when you are coming from different background where you've had it all easy all your life, to navigate that stage is always a very, very, very difficult situation. It's a very difficult situation. So I'm thankful to Dr. Folla for bringing this up. And I think with the way people have been speaking, I've been learning, I've been gaining 1 or 2 things from their insights. I thank everyone. Thank you very much, my people. One love, everybody.
Whoa, Agbakin, thank you so very much. Oh, bless your heart. I hope your assessments and your coursework does not follow you around sleep again. I hope right now they stay in the physical realm where they should be, because your sleep is actually one of the things that you are supposed to use to help your mental health and well-being. So where they are following you into your sleep, that's not good. But well done to you. Dr. Theo, you had your hand up very briefly. I'm not sure if you still wanted to add something, or we're good to go. Okay, maybe we're good to go. Dr. Olu, thank you so much for joining us. We have started the conversation, and we actually started the conversation with Dr. Olu, prior to today, about the whole mental health challenges and the struggles that graduate school students go through, both in Nigeria and outside the country. So, Dr. Olu, is there any addition you want to do at this point that you join us? Okay, maybe not. Right. So far, I would just see if Dr. Olu and Dr. Teo would like to say something at any point. Just let me know. Um, So now we have sort of like highlighted, few things. Thank you, Soma. You highlighted for us some of the symptoms and the ways that you may be able to identify. And I think we'll probably add a Agbakin's take on it, which is if you also sleep and you're seeing your assessment or your assignments in your dream or your exam, that's probably also another indication. But can I now ask, maybe very quickly, not, I mean, as long as we need to anyway, but looking at what are the ways that we can, because we can, I think we can go on so long, the conversation can be so long when it comes to the things that may impact on our mental health, on especially in a new environment, if you're moving from one location to the other. But what are the ways that we can manage it? Because I think that that's actually where the bulk of the conversation should lie, in terms of how can we navigate all these issues that we have identified, as from our experience or from things that we've seen around, in terms of mental health challenges, as the case may be. So any suggestion on how we can navigate them? I think I have quite a few, but I would like to hear from our panelists, especially some of my some of the panelists. I'm just looking at the stage and I noticed that it's getting late at different locations. So if you want to just chime in before heading over to bed, would be nice. Anyone? Am I still being heard, or can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, is something wrong? Can you hear me? It seems I can't be heard. Oh. Whoa. I can't believe this just happened. Sorry, we have started a new space. I can't, I mean, this is ridiculous. Thank you. Thank you for coming back. Thank you so much for coming back. Oh, that is upsetting. Absolutely upsetting. I mean, how did that happen?
I think next time it will be better to make someone co-host. I think
Co-host,
that
right?
yeah, that
I
wouldn't have happened if we'd done that. I think.
Well, now that you've said it, would you mind?
I, Dr. Olu, I think Dr. Olu will do that.
Is Dr. Lu here now? Oh,
Yeah, he's here.
I was just like, what happened? I couldn't even, I didn't see, I was hearing myself or,
And for a very long time, we are still speaking with ourselves for like few minutes before it's just abruptly dropped off.
wow,
So
such a,
if someone had co-host, it wouldn't have happened. And I was almost saying that you are the only one doing.
I
Yeah,
was,
Dr. Olu is here. Okay.
yeah, I was looking towards Dr. Chuk's, but because Dr. Chuk's network was just, so I thought, yes, yes, Dr. Olu.
Let me tweet this now because I quickly create still on the same topic so that as many people can comment. So yeah, so I've tweeted this space right now, and I'm sure as many people as possible will join in.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Folla. Okay. Yes, I see Dr. Two is back. I see Aaron is also back.
What is happening today with network? Is it NEPA? NEPA is worrying my
Hey, Dr. Two, don't go there. Don't even go there. Don't let us start Jollof war now.
I know the energy is up in the UK, so probably you are managing electricity or thereabouts.
No, they've never left Folla.
Yes, I think we are. Somehow the network just, yes. Our energy bills are up now in the UK. It's sad.
Oh,
so
Folla,
maybe
please don't scare me. Don't scare me now.
maybe my landlord just decided to switch off the Wi-Fi.
Don't even go near energy bill. In South Africa now, it's insane. It's totally insane. Like really insane. I don't know, but we move as we say it in Nigeria. Okay, I think yeah. Okay, so I think Fashola was the one talking. He was just giving some exposition on the Erasmus Mundu. Then I think it was Dr. Folla that was chiming in on some input from Fashola before the network decided to act up. I think, in fairness, I think we should make more than one person a co-host so that we don't lose the Twitter space.
Okay, I can join for that safe.
Yeah, let's make Agbaki and the man on the at the end of the earth, Dr. Hero, the co-host. He's laughing. He knows I'm talking to. Yeah. So Dr. Folla, I think you should make the two of them a call so that we just kind of have a secured Twitter space. Yeah. Yeah. So let me just mute myself and we continue the conversation. Please, colleagues, you can retweet as many times as possible so that we bring postgrad students in. Then we just have this conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Olu, and thank you everyone for this. I mean, this is such a learning curve. It's not good to feel overconfident. I've always been like, my network is, I've hardly ever had any issues with internet when I'm on spaces, and I didn't even think about the fact that this could happen, and it just did, which is sad. But thank you so much for joining back, for coming back, for still giving your time and changing spaces. I was just like, Dr. Olu, I think, I was talking with I was referring to Dr. Theo, and I said, Dr. Theo, you had your hand up, and Dr. Theo didn't respond. So I thought, okay, maybe Dr. Theo is, a bit away. And then I went to Dr. Olu and I said, Dr. Olu, you've just joined us. We started this conversation with you, before this space. Is there anything you want? And it's like Dr. Olu did the same. And I'm like, wait, is it that I don't understand? And then, yeah, that's when I realized, oh snap, I probably I'm in trouble now with my internet. But thank you so much for coming back, for those that have joined back. So it was
Sorry, Dr. Folla, just a quick one. I see that the space is not being recorded.
no, it's not.
Is there a way we can navigate around that?
I don't know, because I to be honest, I doubt.
No.
It was a rushing.
Yeah, okay. Well, I just hope that as many people that are in here will take notes, will write some points down and just, we'll have a conversation. But anyway, the good thing is that this is an ongoing conversation. It's a series, based on what we agreed on, Dr. Folla and and Dr. Theo and Dr. Chukwu. It's a series that we will have, even at the point, some experts join us in. I see a very fantastic work being done by BAME. I think BAME, the UK, I just went through their timeline and I see that they're doing some very interesting, amazing work. So we might want to just reach out to some individuals that are experts in the area of mental health, just to have some kind of professional opinion, insights, advice, suggestions, along the line. Because in fairness, we cannot do absolute justice to this topic by just sharing some of our individual, unique, peculiar experiences. Yes, they are relatable. Yes, it gives you an assurance that, look, people have passed through this and it's go. But we cannot underestimate the power of expertise, professionals, because they might just, they always have those golden nuggets to give us here and there, for us to just be able to cope. Yeah. So let me not hold the mic too much. Let me allow the conversation to go on a free flow. Please, I think because we can't record it right now, please take as many notes as possible. I will also be taking notes on the side, so it's not like I'm preaching what I don't do. But thank you very much, Dr. Folla, for this brilliant insights. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor. Dr. Folla, before we lose track of, I think we can continue from where we finished. And where we stopped, I think, was after my conversation, Dr. Folla was trying to make some input and fashola. So I think probably we can start from there and then do the next thing.
Yeah, I think I was literally just going to invite Dr. Theo, because I saw his hand went up, and then the whole situation happened. So if Dr. Theo would like to still, yeah, I think your hand is up. Yes, Dr. Theo.
Yeah, thank you so much. So what I was going to say, I think really like the submission from Grace, where she, brought in some perspective, the sunlight, the relationship with mood and mental health and all that. I basically did a study, a while now, looking at such components and how they, influence first episode of psychosis. So I'm really, really a good perspective. I don't know why that escaped me. It's a shame, really. But thank you so much, Grace, for that perspective. What I was basically going to say was basically pick a classical study, a case, really, which was someone that I personally, knew, sadly lost his life while on a PhD. And I mean, I just want to pick, highlight, some factors that I think contributed to that in relation to some of the things that we have been talking about. So what I gathered from on reflection is the fact that, this person was integrating, professional work on the side along the PhD, which of course is not bad to do. Because of course, in the UK, at least you are allowed to do, 20 hours of work. But this person basically dished the PhD, if I will put it, in that contest and was basically working, doing so much work, and not giving attention to the PhD. And then he came to the latter stages, the final stages of his PhD, and he thought that, he could just do it within a twinkle of an eye and just let it go. At the final year, when he realized the amount of work that, needs to be done, he sort of like went into, came under significant pressure that led to depression, that led to drugs, and sadly led to, suicide, really. So I'm talking here about an international student. Of course, this person was doing that because of the pressures from home. Everyone will call you. They don't care whether you are a student. The assumption is that you are abroad and, quote and unquote, money grows on trees and abroad. So, you need to contribute to everything and anything. And so he was doing all those jobs just to, live that kind of life and support as much as possible, and was not giving attention to the primary reason why he's here in the first place. That being said, of course, there is this thing. Once you start a PhD and people get to know about it, in certain contexts, people begin to, address you as doctor even before you go on to submit or complete your first study. So that assumption from home that, he's going to be a doctor and he's already a doctor, and he thinking that, there is a possibility I'm not going to finish my PhD. Everyone knows I'm on a PhD and, I can't quit at this stage. My funding is running out. The timeline is going. I'm not making significant progress. And all that led him into drugs. When I say drugs here, I mean from sources, all sort of drugs. And he couldn't just cope. So the point I'm making here is that on a PhD, one has to be mindful, especially as international student, that the timeline is critical. Timeline on your visa, timeline on the PhD, very, very critical. We need to be really mindful. Of course, I'm not saying don't do any other thing. Of course, I have done a couple of things while I was on my PhD. But of course, in reasonable, moderate terms, okay, so that the PhD doesn't really suffer. So this is kind of like a case, a classical example that I want to highlight here, talking about all the factors that people have spoken about before, the timeline, the amount of work that people do on the PhD, and so on and so forth. So there are multiple factors that can lead to anxiety and unfortunately suicide, which is kind of like the worst or the final stage of it all. So we are still I assume we are still following the same pattern from before. We are kind of like discussing the issues, and we will move on later on to talk about suggested solutions that would help people to guide. So I think that if we have classical examples, I mean, we can just bring them on the table and then we keep the conversation going. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Theo, thank you for that. Aaron, you had your hand up briefly. I'm not sure. Do you still want to chime in, or should we move along?
I think we can just move so that I don't hold back. I might share again when we bring up other topics.
Okay, thank you. Right. I mean, why did I mute myself? Yeah. So we have talked about. I mean, right now, I think I'll be happy with, or if you guys are okay with it, anyone that wants to share some stories of themselves and how they navigate the challenges that they face, or maybe not how, because the strategies sort of come towards the end of the conversation, but any examples that you may have on how international students and experience mental health situation, maybe something that you have personally experienced. So let me start with myself. So me personally, when I came to the UK, I think, I'm not sure I've said this 2004. When I came to the UK, my first birthday, it was in December. I was working because I worked throughout my MSc and my PhD. I was working and my mom called me. She called me. I was at work. I couldn't pick. So it was when I went on break that I saw her missed call and then I picked. And you know, now as a Nigerian mom, the usual, she was praying, she was, all that, all that. And I just started crying. Like I literally, and my mom, who I mean, we all know how mothers are, right? You want to keep things away from them, you don't. But I just could not help it that day. I don't know how. She's the last person I'm supposed to be crying, on her shoulders virtually. But I did. I was just crying. The reason why I was crying was I just look at myself and I'm like, is it how long would I do this? How am I supposed to push through this? I've only been in UK for a few months as a student and I was already tired. Like I was exhausted. Mentally, the loneliness of not being around people that the fact that UK environment unfortunately is not as friendly, especially when you're new. I can't even just have a chat with my neighbors, like with people I'm living in the same flat with. Then you see them and it's just max you say is hello. Some of them will not even respond to your greetings and that's it. So there was no one to really share. There was no conversation that I could, if I'm not in school, which is about school work, I'm at work or I'm home. Like the 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 environment, like the people around me, no one really, it's not a group of people that care about your well-being. It was just you are work, get to work, you are in school, get to school, work. If you are home, well, have a good time in your room. That's just it. So that got to me and I just started crying, telling my mom, I can't do this, it's so hard. And she's like, no, don't worry, you'll be fine, just encouraging and the rest of that. So it can be a lot of work. Obviously, as I went on through my journey, I sort of like, there are other situations that brought me close to that point or even maybe beyond that point. Having deadlines, we've all mentioned about that. Having publication when I was doing my PhD, feeling like you don't even know what you're doing during your PhD. I remember one day I was on the bus. I felt so, I mean, you go to your supervisory meeting and you just come out like, okay, well, they are going to withdraw me next week. Because at this point, I just don't, because the comments, you see so many red, 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 and you're like, yeah, nah, So anyway, I was on the bus and I met this lady. I just know she's African, right? And I thought she's a I think I've seen her face before. Just hi, hello, And she's like, oh yeah, I saw you too. There's a program we went together. Oh, nice. And from there, she just mentioned about the same thing. It was like this lady was looking at my mind, and she started her PhD before me. So it was as if she knew. She was just saying it. She was like, you go to your supervisor, and they make you feel this way because of the comments, and you just feel, I was like, wait, you feel the same too? I was shocked because I was like, you're almost done with your PhD. You feel, and she's like, yeah, of course I do. Oh, okay. Just now finding out that, okay, it's not just me. Somebody else also have had that kind of experience really helped to an extent. And, there are just so many other examples of different times during the journey that you just feel, okay, I can't handle this again, or this is just too much for one person and the rest of that. So if there are some examples like that, it would be nice if we can share it. I would think. Thank you. Prof. Sunit, I think your hand went up first.
Yeah. I'm here. I am here, Folla. Am I audible to you guys?
Yes, you are.
Yes. Thank you, Folla and Dr. Olu, just to join this space again. That's great. So the topic is very, very nice and very pertinent in terms of international education. And I would describe very briefly this, aspects related to this in 4 subsections. First, culture shock. As Folla was already telling, once you leave your home, once you leave your parents, once you leave your city and country, and you go to another country, you get a kind of culture shock because the cultures of each and every place are quite different and diverse. So we cannot expect whatever we were getting at our own motherland will also be getting in the new country. So one has to be really prepared for that. As Folla said, the same happened with me because I went for my PhD in Germany. And so what happens once you reach over there and you don't find friends, you feel loneliness. You don't, probably the countries where population is more like India and I would say, some African countries too. There are a lot of people around in the central city or market or on the streets, but you don't see much there. So you feel loneliness, a kind of vacuum. So one has to be really, able to adjust himself or herself in such kind of situation, because if not, that could also lead to the mental health issues. Second, funding issue. So sometimes it happens that you go on international fundings from that, advertised to that country. And sometimes there are fellowships available from your own country. So you have to be really balanced in your expenditure in terms of, money, whatever you are getting. Because you are, if you are excessively spending, so that could be a kind of another stress on you, and one has to be careful. Third, self-control. Because once any young student leaves the country, parents are not around, guardians are not around. So what happens? Although it is expected that a mature student should have self-control, but once he goes to another country, see number of the things, and so he has or she has to find out what he has or what she has to do or not to do, and what kind of time management one has to do in order to get their target completed, and that is PhD. Fourth and last point. Sometimes we enter in these in different countries for our academics, and just if it is PhD or master's whatsoever, we go with a very much enthusiasm. But due to all those factors which I mentioned just before, 1 second or so, they contribute also in lack of focus. So suppose you reach to those countries, your focus, that would also create. And as some of the speaker before me, when I joined was speaking, hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Right. So suppose it is PhD and you couldn't focus on your studies and research work, then at the end of the day, at the time of submission, you see you don't have sufficient data, and then you go under stress that this was the meaning for which I came here and I don't see anything in my head, and that leads to really serious stress. So one has to find out balance once if he or she leaves the country. Thank you.
Whoa, thank you so much, Prof. Really insightful take on this conversation. Thank you. Aaron, I think your hand is next.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Folla. I'm just going to share two experiences. One is mine and the other is for a friend. So the first one, which I highlighted when we started the space, was about the issue of publication. So I come from a background where, I've worked in the field of development, so working basically in NGOs. And what I've done, in most of my work is, writing reports, going to the field and drafting this report and sending back to funders and all of that. So it was new for me when I did a master's in the UK, but the UK was it was very quick. I just went in, within a few months, and then, the UK is very fast paced and it was over. But I found that, when I started my PhD in Australia, it was different because this was a space where now I had gotten to the realization that, okay, I'm into research now. And that was a struggle for me, to be honest, because I was coming from a place where I had not a lot of research experience, especially when it had to do with publications specifically. And that began to not turn me off, but it gave me a lot of fright from the very beginning. And sometimes I'm not very good in expressing it, but I started, and I had friends who, right up to this date, who had 20, 30, 50 publications. And when I started, there were students in my school, within my faculty and my, School of Public and Social Work, who had, quite a number of publications. I remember I went into the meeting, my first meeting, my supervisor, and, they asked me, what am I doing, my PhD by publication or by the traditional course, by monograph? And I told her, I'm not doing by publications. I cannot deal with the pressure of, of publishing. But again, that's once you are in that space, there is always that thing behind your head that keeps you under some kind of pressure. People are there, are publishing. Why not just try to do something? And my supervisor encouraged me, and I started working on a paper sometime 2020. And like I mentioned, I only published that in 2022. It took me. You can imagine how long it took me, because again, I was learning the ropes. But in the end, I got it. I got it published. And in as much as I felt good that, okay, this eventually got published. Even right as I speak, working on a current paper, trying to go through my analyses and write up my thesis, that pressure still exists. And, behind the scene, I share my current desktop with Dr. Tosing, who is ahead of me. And sometimes I call him and we talk about these things. And sometimes unconsciously, while I do that, that is just my coping mechanism, to, get someone to talk to. And it's easy, honestly, because the first thing people say is, find someone to talk to. And I acknowledge that helps. But sometimes it's not easy for some people to even open up and talk about these things, because like we say, this is a mental health thing. It's more psychological. So people are dealing with a lot. Many people saw the post of, the post that went viral, somebody in Melbourne who had a 2-year-old, and she, recently committed suicide here in Australia. It's easy for people. You can imagine a mother who has a child of 2 years old, but still went ahead to commit suicide. You can imagine the gravity of what will make a mother do that. So it's easy for us to, quickly say, oh yeah, let's talk about this, find someone to talk to. But sometimes even talking about it is really, really difficult. And for me, what I find was a strategy for me, like I say, yes, was talking about it and engaging in a lot of activities. So, for instance, I'm the HDR rep within my school, and that gets me into doing a lot of things other than, my PhD. So that takes my head outside the PhD. For instance, we come on Twitter, share scholar opportunities, help in reviewing essays for prospective applicants and all of that. People get excited that we do that. But it's also helpful to us, because that helps us, take away the pressure that we have from the work, we're doing in our current research, because we're struggling. As far as I know, it's the struggle never ends. I'm still struggling to the point. There are other things I'm still working on. They kind of driving me crazy at some point. But talking about it, yes, it does really help. And sometimes I share my experience with friends. For instance, Dr. Tosing, I just did that some minutes ago. I know, and he's in the. We are in this space. Dr. Tosing is saying, bros, you can do this. This is something. We're literally having this conversation, and this is still ongoing. And I don't think it's something that, you might be in that space where you share in this kind of, scenario. Those very simple gestures of, having someone to just speak to, having someone to say, hey, this is where I am. I am stuck. And I know Dr. to say, oh, just it's time to rest. But sometimes you even want to rest, but the pressure doesn't allow you to rest. You kind of, how do I even rest when I have a meeting to hold on to do? I have deliverables to give my supervisors by so dates. And, but yeah, talking about it certainly does help. Having people within your network that, you have something to talk to other than PhD, other than your research. And frankly, the pressure or the thoughts behind your head about your work, about the milestone, about the deadline might never really go entirely. It will still be there lurking behind. But it's just a realization that okay, for some minutes, okay, someone understands with me, someone knows that, okay, someone is here, someone who has been here, or Dr. Folla has struggled as well, and she's gotten her PhD. It means that there's hope for me that, okay, I'm struggling, and there's the potential that I'll finish to do the PhD. And that takes me on to the point about supervisors, which I'm very, very critical about. Apologies to academics on this space. Apologies to people who have students and they're supervising. And I know a lot of people are here, amazing people, because we do this all the time. But I mean, this is an experience of a friend who had an ugly situation with the supervisor. So it was a time where Australia was locked down. Australia was more rigid with international borders, and for me, I couldn't even travel back to Nigeria to do my fieldwork because of the lockdown. And I had a friend who was married. He had his family back home, but he couldn't bring them due to funding. So when he came, he settled. COVID broke out, and he wanted to bring his family here, and he needed a letter from his supervisor. And his supervisor, and I listen to people make distinction about, the kind of support that is there in Nigeria, the kind of power structures, or, supervisors having so much power within the Nigerian context from the experience people shared. And I was just smiling because, I mean, this is, the Australian context, and this is a global concern, to be honest. So my friend wanted a letter from his supervisor to say, okay, please, the DHA wanted him to give him the letter so he can, say, okay, this is my PhD student, he's been here, his family is back home, can you please support? And the supervisor told him blankly that he doesn't want to have anything to do with, his family. It's just about his PhD that he's concerned with. And the guy who's, is published and he's on his PhD. And I was driving back home, and I had that call with my friend. I was so frustrated that, and in my role as HDR representative, I hear students coming to talk about these things. I'm fortunate to have good supervisors, but it was so frustrating listening to my friend, because I'm fortunate that my family is here in Australia with me, and so it was easy, and I could relate to the frustration. And he was at a point where he couldn't do much, because his supervisor is like the head or like the director of the center where he belongs to. And this is a professor that has done so many years. And if you are in the system, you will know that, yes, that power structure exists. And in as much as we know that there's a structure, even, in the so-called developed context, we still have the politics that goes on, where some supervisors have some kind of power that, it's their friends that are still meant to, for instance, checkmate the work they do. And so my friend was powerless, and I went to Twitter to write a letter to PhDs, to link to write to PhD supervisors. And right up to this date, I mean, that is the tweets, that is the post that I've had the largest engagement I've had on LinkedIn. I mean, it had over 100, and reactions and likes. And students came under that post to be tagging their supervisors on LinkedIn to say, oh, thank you. Unfortunately, somebody came under that post that I studied with to tag the supervisor, to tag one of the tutors I did my master's degree with in the UK, to say, oh, you're the worst person I had, all of that. And I was shocked to find out, oh, this is a person that taught me in the UK. And that post was very, very revealing to see, what students go through. And it is very hard, particularly for international students, because we're looking for scholarships. We first of all want to get supervisors. When we get these supervisors, it is more of like these supervisors have done us a favor to say, yes, I want to supervise you. And so we get the funding, we get the scholarship. Sometimes can link that power structure. Okay, if this person didn't agree to supervise me, then I will not be able to do my PhD or get the scholarship. But if you're on this space and you're listening to me and you've in this popped up for you or for someone, please encourage that person that no matter how difficult the power structure is, there is someone or some structure to be able to talk to. Because these are the kind of things that push people into, suicide, which is like the worst of it. And we see this every day. People drop out of PhDs after struggling for years to secure admission and funding. Then at the end of it, they drop out because some supervisor was not supportive. And I admit and I know that there are very, very good supervisors, some of which we have on this space. But please, if you're an international student, and you've got a supervisor, you are there, you're struggling, please do not think that the supervisor has done you so much. Yes, the supervisor has been really good or nice to get you into the program, get you funding, but please do not stay isolated. I remember my supervisors tell me something like, in the structure of your PhD, it's your family first, then your PhD. So if you think of it, it is your life first, it is your mental health. You have to be alive to do a PhD. You have to be alive you have to be healthy to even graduate. So if you're in that space where you feel very frustrated with a supervisor, or someone is feeling very frustrated with the supervisory, the powers between supervisors and supervisors that are not supportive, please encourage them to, talk to someone. It can be very, very difficult, like I mentioned with my friend. Even as I speak to you, my friend is still just trying to navigate that process and just try to graduate because he feels very, very bad. And I remember I was so frustrated and I told him, can we not just call your supervisor out or something? And again, I was saying that out of my own frustration. But even at that is a very radical approach that might not get us anywhere. And in my own role, I had engagement with students, even within my school. As a rep who come up to say, oh, Aaron, I'm having challenging my supervisors. I want to change them. And these are people I relate with as tutors every day, but someone is coming to tell me, oh, they're toxic as supervisors. So it's a very, very challenging space. And if you're a student struggling in that way, please talk to someone. Do not feel that because you're an international student, they've gotten you funding and scholarship, they have done you so much favor, and so you are free. I don't know about structures in your school, your university, but talk to someone because you are able to even change your supervisory panel, which, in my school, that has happened with a few students, that kind of engagement has happened. You're able to change your supervisor, even your principal supervisor, you're able to change them entirely if there is that documented history of you struggling and not being supported enough. I'm very, very, I get very frustrated when it comes to issues about supervision and students. And so I could go on and on and on and just keep ranting about my frustration. But these are, the two things that kind of resonate with me very strongly. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Aaron. I do hope you don't hate me because I am a supervisor myself. However, I think I try my best, and I would hope that many of my colleagues do as well. But I absolutely agree with you. There's some time where some supervisors are just not the nicest. I think they have more interest in their project or in the project that is ongoing more than the student well-being, which is not the way it's supposed to be. There should be a balance to both sides of the coin, as the case is. Thank you very much for that input, Dr. Chooks, and then we'll go to Bridget. Yes.
Thank you so much. Hello, can I go on?
Yes, please, Dr. Chooks.
Okay. Thank you for the time again. I want to just follow up to what everyone has just said. Fortunately, unfortunately, I'm a supervisor now. I have supervisees under me that trying to guide through their process of writing their projects. But unfortunately, one of the greatest challenges that I had during my program was also with my supervisor. And that's why I've been trying a lot bit to demystify the issue of supervisor-student relationship to actually sometimes I make my students feel that I'm also vulnerable, that there's pressure for me to meet up with all the demands. There is I don't even know all these things people want me to do, so I have to go and research. So I also open up to them so that they will understand that I'm not a Superman. And I have also my all that about that, so that relate with the whole process. One of the things like Dr. Folla said, one of the things that encourages people discover that others have the same difficulties or obstacles, but you also doing one thing or the other. You do something terrible and encouraging. It looks like it's common. During those days when I read on tweets and see international students also complain about issues of submission, issues of trying to skate through the process. I say, wow, if people that have all the facilities, they have scholarship, they have the best of technology and all those work now. Oh, that means we that in Africa passing through this thing that we're really trying. If we don't have anything that we're pushing through, we're superhuman. You know, that kind of thing encourages you to continue. To also share the story I want to share about me and my supervisor. I did something on prevention of cervical cancer. Before I started, I did manage to review, and I discovered there's a gap in terms of there is a lot more that has been done on secondary prevention, looking at the medical, basically the pathway tests and all those screening at the secondary level, and not much has been done on the primary level. Coming from a sociological background, I felt that behavioral modification and even emphasizing the issue of vaccination at the primary level can contribute to prevention. So I started and all that. When I did my proposal, I was welcoming, people appreciated that there's a gap and all that. So my supervisor also approved it. I went to the field, collected my data. I actually studied 3 states in the southeast. So I was running from Enugu to Abakaliki to Anambra and all that, coordinating the result. I have assistants. So when I came back from the field, my supervisor now told me that that because we are sociologists, that we are going to remove the issue of vaccination. So I was not comfortable with that suggestion. So I was like, sir, since we are already doing something on primary prevention, can we conceptualize our this work around it instead of excluding? Because his argument was that HPV vaccination is a medical thing. Let's look at the sociological aspect of it, which is the cultural practices that predisposes women to cervical cancer. So at that time, I have come back from the field. So I was like, you know, this idea that PhD is your work, it's my work, but it's also just guiding me through, you know, that kind of thing. So I couldn't control my temper, and I argued it out with him. At the point of argument, I lost my temper, and my supervisor said, okay, you can now go and supervise yourself. You know, so at that point, I thought I lost it. I came out. I was devastated from his office. I didn't know where to go again. I don't know who. That's why I said in here, local setting, there's something like a support, like an official platform where you can seek for support to address some certain issues that are weighing you down. You know, really the best you can do is to gossip around your colleague and all that. So I probably called my father. I said, I'm pulling out because my father has been my backbone on this program. He needed it more than ever. You know, he's telling me that you are the first to come be a PhD holder in our whole village. You must have to finish this. You know, that kind of thing. He always support me when I have challenges and all that. So I called him and said, this is I'm giving up. I can't continue. You know? So I cried. I was like, when I was driving back to my Enugu, because I always come from Enugu to Oka, to Anambra I was like, what kind of thing is this? What is it? Is it that my life is tied in this program? This man saw my stools before going to the field. I never occurred to him that we should remove that. Although he was arguing that it's not going to cause any harm, that we just need to exclude everything about the HPV vaccination and all that. So, but I wanted to have my way to and all that. So it wasn't too good for me. It was a very depressing moment for me. And I thought maybe because of my naivety, I wouldn't have argued to the point of shouting all that. I've been losing my self-control, you know, that kind of thing. It took the grace of God to actually come back to the program and finish it, even though it took a lot of years out of my life. So that's one of the things that one of the stories that actually depressed me in the whole process. And not because we didn't have a support system officially you can go and complain, because it's not going to the HUD or anybody to complain. Is to getting the result and making sure that there's an independent system to investigate and put you through the whole thing. You may do it and it backfires and it becomes even worse. So I didn't know what to do. I was totally confused. I told my wife, I'm stopping this. It's not my life. That kind of thing. I gave up. Maybe when we start talking about the coping strategy or how we and all that, I can talk more of how I survived the whole process. But also, we advise part of the things others can contribute. How do we manage this in terms of supervisors, student relationship? We get at a point where you lose your temper as a supervisor. I felt it's my naivety, or maybe I was ignorant, or I was overwhelmed with the situation but it's a mental health issue for me, because I was really coming from before starting the program. The man has already put fear in me that can I finish this? Am I competent enough and all that? So I never felt I was the best in my class. I felt that in fact I work best when I'm put under pressure and kind of trying to challenge my competence. So I try to work extra hard. So whatever it tells me to do, go to this one, do my research, I wasn't doing them to prove that I can do this program. But at that stage, I lost it. I actually shouted at him. I said, there are things I said that I can't say in the open space and all that. So, but when I left the office, I felt that is the end for me. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know I didn't have any clue on where go to the HUD. Who do I talk to? What do I do now? I think I've messed up. I know all that kind of thing was going in my mind. But thank God, maybe when we talk of the strategy of surviving this process, maybe I can add more to that. So that's my story. So I encourage students to, I think, okay, let me have others' view, because I have students that also sometimes they feel maybe I'm not giving them enough time, but that's why I try to have communication. You can text me anytime and I reply you on WhatsApp if there's any challenge. And also, I really wanted to create that friendly communication. And if I see anything that will help you, I also encourage them to do that, and all that. So, but I get to the point that you want to, call out your supervisor, like Aaron was saying, that I didn't even know that kind of thing exists out there. I thought it's our local problem. So maybe we can stop here. I wouldn't want to start talking about the coping strategy if that's how we have implemented the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chooks. Yeah, sometimes you get emotional about your project. It's sort of like your mini baby to an extent. So where things are not going right, emotions can just go all over the place. So thanks for sharing that. Bridget. Thank you.
Oh, hi, good morning. This is Birgit. Yeah, good morning from Canada, sorry. Yeah, great conversations. I think this is a space that a lot of people actually need to come and listen and just understand, strategies to cope, because mental health issues are everyday issues. And I think at one point in life, we will all go through some kind of mental health challenges. So it's important. So thank you for hosting this space. I actually am going to speak as, I currently teach internationally educated nurses here in Canada. And I'm a Nigerian myself, so I've had the privilege to experience the education system in Nigeria as well as here in Canada. So I think I have some insights as to what students, should know. I find that a lot of my students are from India, from the Philippines, and also from parts of Africa, so Nigeria, Ghana, and all that. And all that. I find like the common theme is a lot of these students. So I do teach internationally educated nurses, which most of them are immigrants, and I also teach Canadian students in the Bachelor of Sciences program. And I find there's a huge difference. I find students that are born here actually do know their rights. A lot of them do. Majority of them do. They know when to ask for extensions. They know when it's too much and how to send that email to the professor and say, I'm having a mental breakdown. I need time. And I'm telling you, this time could be well beyond the deadline, like well beyond the deadline. They know how to access those resources. And then teaching students that are mostly immigrants, I found that a lot of them don't know their rights. And because a lot of them come from, systems where they're pressured to meet deadlines, otherwise there are consequences, they actually translate that mentality to their learning here. And I find they struggle a lot because being an immigrant comes with a lot of responsibilities. Many times I think you all know that, right? Like you're dealing with, separation from families, no support, accommodation, and the list goes on. So it's not the same. That in itself brings a lot of stressors that we sometimes just overlook, but they impact our mental health. So I find these students actually do need more support. Like the fields are not equal. They're not starting from the same field. So I'm like, okay, my role as an educator is to let them know and tell them that these are things you could do. Like, if you know you're not meeting a deadline, these are your rights. These are things you can ask. Just shoot me an email and let me know, as opposed to not completing the work. So I find like a lot of international students need that kind of support where they know that it is okay to ask for an extension. It doesn't make you less of a committed student. It doesn't make you less of someone that's focused or dedicated. We all just cope differently. Real challenge where students don't know they have this right, and then they struggle. Some of them end up quitting, and some of them just break down. Unfortunately, I read a tweet a couple of days ago where a PhD student took their life, and I'm like, oh my goodness, the pressures are real. Like, even students that have all the support. So I have students that are like, they have all the support. They live with your parents. They cook for them. They drop them off. Like, everything is going well for them. And they're still struggling mentally. And then I have students who are like, they're pregnant. They're living like a basement apartment with different, family members. They don't even have the space to join a Zoom meeting. I have students that cannot join a Zoom meeting, not because they can't turn on their videos, not because they don't want to. They don't have that space and that privacy to be able to. So I know what it means, and I do believe that. And then even in educating my colleagues, I tell them we cannot mandate students showing their videos, because some students are actually homeless, and some students are just streaming from a friend's apartment. So it's not the same. So we have to be able to, as educators, be open-minded to listen, to grant those extensions, because you don't know whether or not they submit their assignments. I know, you have to have a timeline, but these people are still going to be great, and still, they're still going to be who they are destined to be, as long as they're working towards it. For some people, the pace is slower, some is not. So I'm just trying to say, okay, educators have a role to play, but students also have a role to play in knowing their rights, joining community. I tell my students, create a group. The first thing, create a WhatsApp group, connect with each other, ask each other questions, just stay connected, because these are the people that, you're going to do career with sometimes. Those are just points I'm just trying to remember. And having that community. If you're a Christian, try to connect with a church group. If you're Muslim, try to connect with your brothers and sisters, like whatever. And then even on campus, there's so many activities going on. Try to engage and just keep yourself, alive, and take a break from that academic work, so you can have time to do other things that will, give you life, because deadlines are draining. I think the most challenging thing for me as a student or actually deadlines. Just the fact that there's something coming up just gives me anxiety. So I understand that as students, that's a lot of stress. And I tell them when is good for you. And we know that as educators, sometimes we're also too tired to mark papers. And if you know you're not gonna mark that paper in the next 1 month because you already booked a vacation in Florida, why on earth are you putting pressure on students to submit the assignment that you're not even gonna look at in the next 2 months? I think that's cruel, and I think there's so much work that has to be done when it comes to academia. And my colleagues sometimes do not like me because I find I keep advocating for students because I'm always a student too. So it just shows that people are doing things. And then when I started teaching, I'm like, is this what we do? Is this what you guys do? Like, you make us submit these things, not even knowing the situations, like, of our lives, and then you don't even look at them because you've booked a vacation, and that's not okay. So I really do try not to put firm deadlines for my students. As long as they get it in just before I know I'm going to mark them, that's okay. And yeah, so do what's good for your mental health. If the program is, stressing you too much, take a break. Like, you can explore the program, the policies, and everything, and see if you qualify to take a break without having an impact on your graduation or when you finish. We just have to get this thing going. We're trying to educate ourselves, not trying to die. So see if you can take a break, and then you continue later on and take care of your mental health. So explore every single loophole that's available to you. Explore every single extensions, deadlines, opportunities that will make you a successful, well student in the end, not someone that you're finishing and then you're literally completely, you're mentally not okay, and you push yourself into depression, and then you're on medications and everything. I see students who break down completely. So make sure you know how to balance that and take a break. But the main thing is knowing your rights as a student, because I find that's what a lot of international students that I know that I've taught are lacking. So please, 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 try to work on that and know your resources. Thank you for the space.
Thank you so much. Wow, that is a bucket loads of different information. Thank you, Bridget. I absolutely agree. I think this is one of the things I pen down. As someone in academia, we have seen, like you have said, we've seen a lot of students, international students. They just get that fear into themselves in terms of, oh my God, I can't speak out, I can't ask for help, I can't. And you have a right to do many of these things, just like any other student that you have in your class. So we need to, and this is hopefully why we are having this conversation, international student, you need to know your rights, that there are some things that are available to you and you can explore them. One of them, like Bridget has mentioned, is extension and extenuation. The first place you could start with is talking to your I'm trying to, your lecturers, we call it something else in my university, and I'm sure they probably have different names: unit leader, module leader, program leaders, just whatever the name is. First of all, have a conversation with them. This time I actually had a student who was like, I'm struggling, at the verge of being homeless, and I'm concerned with my study. I don't want to continue. Folla, what can I do? And I said, well, obviously the choice is yours, but there are things that we can also do to help you manage this period that you're in. So, and we had a conversation. One of them I said is, we can actually give you, based on your circumstance, we can give you some extensions different from other students so that you're able to balance what you have personally, and then you can still meet up. She's like, I'm willing to do it, but the time frame is just so short that I don't think I can manage. And I said, well, that is something we can look into. I think leaving your program should be the last option, or should be the last thing that you consider. If it does require to get to that point, well, that's also not it's not that doesn't mean you're a failure, because some students are, or some people, you just push and be like, I have to do it, because if not, I would be a failure. Maybe I'm the first person in my family to go into grad school or be a PhD candidate and the rest of that. It doesn't have to be so. Sometimes that is an outlet that you may take, but before you get to that point, there are other options that can be reviewed or looked into. And I think that this is bringing us to some of strategies that we know or that we would like to share with our colleagues in terms of international students. So I think it was Dr. Chooks that mentioned about the fact that some of these things are not in the context of Nigeria and maybe Africa or even some LMIC countries in general. So me, for example, when I came to the UK, I don't think I've had any conversation about mental health or the impact of it while I was studying. And I did my BSc program in JOS. In Jos, for those that know or still know it, Jos, we had a lot of crises and ethnic riots and the rest of that during the period while I was in school. And so it wasn't just about, I mean, there are times where you're sleeping at night and they just come and wake you up and you have to run for dear life, go through bushes, go through some really horrible pathways to get to safety. People were, I mean, there was soldiers everywhere throughout most part of my program then. So but we didn't have, there was no support, like no one even I mean, that's like the worst time to study. Your family members are worried all the time. My mom every time will call me, or sisters, anyone would just call. I heard they are fighting in so place, and it's like, okay, everywhere, before you know, everywhere is scattered, right? But no one had that conversation of how we're coping mentally with the whole scenario that's happening around us. So, but when I came, so because of that, I think when I came to the UK, and many international students probably experienced this, when you come to the UK, you don't really know that there are some things that are in place within the school or within the environment that you're studying at that you could actually assess. So, for example, most universities, and I would, in fact, I would go on to say all universities in the UK, I believe, are mandated to have health and well-being support team for all students. So international or home students, you are supposed to be able to assess these the services that are being organized by this team. So for example, CBT, some of them, you have CBT workshops, you have mindfulness, affirmation, just different support strategies that this team, they are, that's their job. They are there to support you mentally if needed, even some financially. There are some although as international student is not that common. Sorry, there is, it's common, but it's not a lot. Like you don't really have a lot of money for international student, but there are still some hardship funds that are there. It might not be so much, but you can still, look into assessing them. But if you don't check these things within your university, you may not know they are there, and they are there. So maybe reviewing some elements of if you have hardship need or some financial support that can be provided by university, you can check that. There's also chaplaincy. So most schools, if not all, would have chaplaincy team. So the chaplaincy team are more around, religious activities and different things that can spiritually uplift you as a student. So please try and assess those as well. There are international student societies within most universities. When I was doing my program, my PhD in Bournemouth, I remember we had Nigerian society, and so we, as Nigerian students, we actually came together and we had that society. So you are having mentorship program going on. You're having social aspect. We meet every now and then to discuss. To just sometimes it's just to have really light time. Just to talk about how we're doing. You have a PhD student meeting, a master student meeting, a BSc student, all of that just coming together, learning from each other and hearing about how everyone is coping and getting on with their program. So if you're in an environment, your school, try and find out. Most they would have, if not Nigerian student like I had in that my school, you may have African student, or you may have international student society, but something related to that would should be available, and that can also be an outlet that you can check. For my university, we have academic advisor, and I think some other universities in the UK have, they might be different names. So your academic advisor is someone that is linked to you, yeah, from the start. So you work with that person from the start of your program all the way to the end, depending on how many years it takes your program, runs for. So that one person is that person you can always go to. I have my academic advisee, or they just send me message, Folla, I have this, my result, I'm not happy with my result, or my script, or something is missing. So you can also check that they might be in your university or where you are, so you can review that and always have that one person that you can sort of like talk about things with, even not just academic things, but even things outside academic environment. So sort of like your career dreams or prospects, how you're preparing for the next phase of your life, that can also be reviewed. I remembered I messaged one of my academic advisees, because normally you, as the academic advisee, you're supposed to contact the advisor, which is me, right, where you have issues. So I just decided to contact this academic advisee, a master student from India. And the thing is, she was literally, because they just assigned her to me. I didn't know her before that time. So when they assign a new advisee to me, I just try and meet them and see where they are, and then and introduce myself so they know I'm there, or and where they need to, they can always come to me as their program goes on. And then when I met with her, she was really shocked. She was like, I never knew anything about this. And she was coming towards the end of our program. It was the last time we met once after that, and that was it. And I was like, wow. I mean, they just allocated you to me. I would imagine maybe you were with someone else and the person left the university or something. That's why you have been reallocated to me. But she didn't know. She didn't even know there is that service. And she was like, this would have really helped me a lot when I first came struggling with different, aspects of my study. So please try and check that. If you're not sure, just ask any lecturer, and just ask, is there anyone that is assigned to me to support me through my program as an advisor? So that can be something to explore for those that have PhD or supervisor, or even your MSc. It's very important that you let your supervisory team know. I know Aaron have highlighted the fact that sometimes that relationship may not be going as well as it should, but still try and let them carry them along to an extent. We international students, I did this. I'm not even going to put this on anyone else. I did this myself as well, where I am struggling, but I just wouldn't want to just tell my. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, but breaking. Yes, but breaking.
It's breaking. Okay. Uh,
Okay, I'm not sure, but I think Dr. Folla's network is acting up again.
it is.
Yes, it's breaking.
Okay, I will try and leave and then join back again.
I think it's fine now. Can you continue speaking? Let's see.
Oh, okay. So although I can't barely do anything, but if you're not hearing me, just let me know and I'll drop out and come back in. Am I still being heard?
Oh, okay. Okay. I think.
Oh, network. Network and my phone. Network and my phone. Yes, so I was talking about strategies for international students to manage their mental health, some support services that are available, and the way you can go about assessing help. obviously, my internet, I don't even think it's my internet, I think it's my phone, is acting up really badly. And so I've been locked out of the Twitter space which I'm hosting. Interestingly, I'm trying to get back, but I'm not sure if I can. My phone seemed to be struggling. Like, this is horrible. How do you download all this? Ah, technology. Later. My internet is bad. Oh. How did this happen? My phone is not charging. Technology. Okay, let me end this one. I think I've talked about the strategies. I was supposed to ask people for their contribution, but the network is really bad here. I can't believe this is happening. But there we are. So thank you. Bye bye.